I was constantly disturbed by heart demons and couldn't complete the training. It's really frustrating. After murmuring to himself for a while, the demon lord stood up. You can continue cultivating here. There are my formations here, and no one dares to disturb you. Su Qi, seeing this, asked, where are you going? The demon lord, carrying his weapon, was preparing to leave. He paused at the door and impatiently replied, going out for a stroll. Killing a few people from the sect to vent my mood. This answer left Su Qi speechless, as expected of the demon lord. This might be an opportunity? Su Qi thought seriously, should I escape? But after thinking about it, it wouldn't work. The demon lord's strength is there, running away won't help. If only my master were here. Su Qi suddenly thought, wait, if my master isn't intervening, could it be that he's allowing the demon lord's opportunity to be given to me? I am also suitable for the magic skills. Could it be that my master wants to let me grow faster by allowing this? Realizing his master's intentions, Su Qi became determined. As expected, my master is thoughtful. I understand now, master. But back home, Master Hanju had no idea that he was such a far-sighted person. Suddenly, a system prompt appeared. The strongest person from the Yuqing sect has been found. It is the Wudao old monster, at the 7th level of the Unity Realm, the sect leader of the Wuxiang sect. This information made him puzzled. The Wudao old monster is here? In front of the Yuqing sect, Wudao arrived with his disciples. You wait here. I'll go in alone. Wudao old monster instructed, in case something happens, be prepared. Hearing this, Dongfeng Xian agreed, yes, master, please be safe. Wudao walked lightly on the steps, slowly entering the Yuqing sect. Inside the sect, Li Qingzi hurried out, what's going on? Has the Wudao old monster from Wuxiang sect arrived? Someone nearby said, he came alone, it doesn't seem like he's here to cause trouble. The entrance of the Yuqing sect was crowded with people, all discussing, I wonder if Wudao is here to settle scores? Li Qingzi had to shout, we did not come out to welcome the sect leader, we apologize. May I ask what brings you here, senior? Wudao respectfully replied, I am here to resolve a previous misunderstanding. Hearing this, Qingxian and Lu Bumi snorted, but Qingzi still invited Wudao inside. Under the large hood, Wudao's face exuded a dangerous aura. I wonder where Elder Qinchin is? We had some misunderstandings before, and I wish to meet him personally. Hearing this, Qingxian, Lu Bumi, and Li Qingzi were all surprised. Did you have past grievances with Elder Han? Li Qingzi was about to refuse the request, I'm afraid. But Wudao immediately interrupted, are you the sect leader of Yuqing sect? Can't you handle a small matter with an elder? While Li Qingzi was still hesitating, Xiao Jiao spoke up. He said, Elder Han just told me to bring the Wudao old monster to see him. Hearing this, Li Qingzi agreed to take him to see Hanju. After achieving his goal, Wudao revealed a sinister smile. As they walked, Wudao was introduced. This is our Yuqing sect's experimental cave, full of spiritual energy and vitality. Li Qingzi excitedly said, if the experiment succeeds, it will be open to the entire sect. In time, Yuqing sect's disciples will surely be full of talent. He also replied, it is indeed a very good place. As they were walking, Hanju appeared and spoke, may I ask what brings you here, senior? He greeted Wudao with a very friendly attitude, leaving no room for criticism. Looking at that calm expression only made him more resentful. Wudao gritted his teeth and said, I've heard of Elder's great name for a long time, and came specially to visit, also to resolve the grudge between us. Inside the cave, Hanju's calm voice could be heard, Senior, please take a seat. He was puzzled about what kind of grudge there was between them. Why did you choose to enter when there was a road in the sky, yet no door in hell? Wudao apologized, before, I didn't know that Miss Xing was your Dao partner. Therefore, since the Yuqing sect has subdued the blood flame heavenly gate, I will no longer target you. Hearing this, Hanju picked up the teacup from the tray to show his gratitude. He brought the teacup to his lips, signaling that he no longer cared about the past, and Wudao also cooperated by praising Hanju for his broad mind. He took a sip of tea, hiding his cold gaze, and cursed inwardly, stop with the act. Hanju looked at Wu Dao's holy smile and then at the system's recently reported 5-star hatred value. Feeling displeased, 4 stars to 5 stars. It really seems like he wants to skin me alive. Suddenly, he spoke in a low voice. Also, I was cursed by someone. Could it have been you, my friend? This immediately stunned him, clearly surprised by the question. Wu Dao's expression twisted. I came here to clarify one thing. Do not anger me. I will not disturb Miss Xing. Our two sects can establish a friendly relationship. Hanju responded with an innocent expression. I am an upright person. How could I do such a lowly thing? Besides, we haven't even met. How could I curse you? He continued to act as if he didn't know, but his heart tightened because he had been guessed. This person cannot be left alive. Wu Dao naturally didn't believe him. With so many coincidences, who else could it be but you? He observed Hanju's innocent act. This person dares not admit it, which means he fears me. Although he has many spiritual treasures, he doesn't pose much of a threat. Even in a life-or-death battle, he wouldn't be able to kill me. Thinking of this, Wu Dao couldn't help but show a smug smile. With my divine powers, as long as my primordial spirit is intact, my body will never die. If I deal with him, the Yuqing sect and the Blood Flame Heavenly Gate will both fall under my Wuxiang sect. Then, with an ambitious smile, he said, you don't have to pretend, old man is not here to cause trouble. Hanju, seeing the system's report of hatred value, 5.5 stars, had no words to respond. At this point, Wu Dao no longer pretended, and gritted his teeth saying, I just hope you show some mercy. After saying this, he waved his hand and sent countless spiritual thorns, attempting to bind Hanju. The thorns came whistling from all directions, heading straight for Hanju. Facing the thorns that were about to make contact with his body, he still leisurely sipped his tea, as if nothing had happened. At this moment, a freshly roasted fish outside emitted an enticing aroma. The voice of Tuan Chang'an sounded, Elder, won't someone like this break the master's rules? Master doesn't like being disturbed. He asked anxiously. Hearing this, Li Qianxi helplessly said, it's already impressive that the sect leader of the Wuxiang sect managed to barely cultivate to become an immortal. Meanwhile, the other two were enjoying the delicious roasted fish. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out, causing everyone to turn around in shock. Is that from the master's side? They hurriedly ran towards the cave entrance, worried about Hanju's situation. At this moment, they saw Wu Dao silently walking out the door. Seeing this, Li Changzi immediately turned pale in panic and shouted loudly, what did you do to Elder Han? As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Dao lightly curled the corner of his mouth and gave a gloomy laugh. Sect leader, don't act, it's me. Although it was Wu Dao's voice, it sounded exactly like Hanju's, making them widen their eyes in surprise. At this moment, Hanju slowly walked to the front. His primordial spirit was destroyed by me, and now it is my soul controlling his actions. Li Changzi asked incredulously, is he already dead? Hanju placed his hand on Wu Dao's shoulder and grunted, don't make a big fuss about this. I'll take his body away, and I won't let Wuxiang sect trace it back to us. Li Changzi broke into a cold sweat in fear, stuttering, I'll go control the public opinion. In his heart, he was lamenting, in less than 2 breaths, the Wu Dao old monster is dead? The gap is too huge. Hanju secretly despised him. To deal with him, I only needed the 6 Paths Absolute Seal to destroy his primordial spirit. This is the experience I gained from 8 simulated battles. Then Hanju urged Li Changzi, hurry up and do it. Hanju then began thinking about where to put Wu Dao's soul, eventually deciding to pin the blame on a random demon clan member. Outside, Dongfeng Xian began losing patience. What's going on? It's been so long, and master still hasn't come out? A disciple immediately reassured, don't worry, sect leader, the sect leader will be fine. Suddenly, something flew across the sky, startling them to look up. He immediately recognized that it was his own master. Dongfeng Xian hurriedly led his people to chase after him, shouting, wait, my disciple is here. At this point, Wu Dao, controlled by Hanju, suddenly paused and thought for a moment. Then, like a jet plane, he flew out in a second, leaving the others behind to only swallow the smoke and dust. What urgent matter does the sect leader have? Dongfeng Xian angrily urged his disciples to catch up, but they helplessly shouted, "Sect leader, wait. We don't have the cultivation of the Unity Realm, we can't catch up with you." Hanju fully controlled the Wudo old monster, traveling for half a month, until his spiritual energy was almost exhausted. Finally, he had to let him stop randomly in a deep mountain. Hanju used his last bit of spiritual energy to leave some traces that suggested a murder, which would be found by the disciples of Wuxiang sect. Then, he retracted his soul, leaving behind a meticulously crafted fake scene. By then, the disciples were already exhausted, still questioning why Wudao had entered the territory of Qingman dashing. Only a fool would go there. Dongfeng Xian had just finished speaking. Suddenly, Zhou Fan and Mo Fuqiang walked out from that direction. They immediately turned around to look at the others, their expressions confused. He and the disciples of Wuxiang sect also looked back in confusion, glancing at each other. Finally, they quickly brushed past each other. Zhou Fan hesitated, "Should we just take care of them directly?" Mo Fuqiang immediately became furious, "Can you at least consider the consequences? How much suffering have I endured following you? Are you crazy? Remember the consensus we reached earlier, this time we are just visiting an old friend. Don't stir up trouble again." Hearing his reminder, he immediately promised, "I just want to see Hanju's expression. It's like a frog in a well seeing an unknown terrifying gaze, only by striking and correcting his worldview. Can we make him fight alongside us to conquer the world?" Zhou Fan cunningly curled his lips. Back at Hanju's side, he was observing the spatial ring sent by the howling old monster. Then Hanju looked up, and was instantly stunned with surprise. It really is the sect leader of Wuxiang sect, the details far exceed expectations. In front of him were countless jewels, gemstones, and shining gold, dazzling the eyes. Hanju then looked at the mountain piled high with rare and supreme cultivation treasures. He was extremely excited and jumped around in the pile of jewels he already owned, so many treasures and resources, enough to establish a sect. This courier must have picked this up from the furnace. Just as Hanju was laughing wildly while holding the model box, a voice suddenly came, "Elder Han. There's a big problem. The secret transmission went wrong. Ma Zhu has fallen into madness, and all the beings in the secret transmission have been killed." Li Qingzi shouted urgently. Hearing the words "fall into madness," Hanju immediately froze, unable to believe it. Is he following Ma Fuqiang? Hanju was thinking, what did Ma Zhu do? A system notification popped up, and Hanju immediately focused on the report about Ma Zhu, awakened. Demonic soul, fallen into the demonic path, murderous intent increases. Hanju completely did not understand what an awakened demonic soul was. A moment later, at Yuking sect, Jing Si saw his arrival and immediately shouted excitedly, "Elder Han." Hanju was concerned about her situation. She explained, because of the prohibitions, no one was killed, but the formation has been damaged by demonic energy. What's strange is that after she fell into madness, she sealed herself not long after, and there has been no further movement. It's like she doesn't want to drag the sect into it? Hanju immediately retorted. This is not a seal, it's more like cocooning. Upon hearing this, Jing Si immediately became worried. Doesn't this increase the possibility of an outbreak? He nodded in confirmation and said to her, "Issue an order to prohibit anyone from appearing within 10 miles of the secret transmission." Jing Si immediately accepted the task and reminded Hanju before turning, "Be careful." He comforted her, but his heart was filled with anxiety, worried about Ma Zhu. The demonic energy is too intense. Hanju gently reached out to touch the cocoon. "Didn't you check her? The aura inside is rejecting me." What was strange was that Ma Zhu's body had not fully formed yet, and the demonic energy she cultivated was actually able to resist the power of the Void Realm cultivator. Hanju frowned and speculated, could there be someone else inside? In that case, let's go all out. Thinking this, he immediately raised his hand to use his magical power, directly attacking the cocoon and breaking it. As the cocoon broke, Ma Zhu, who had been unconscious, appeared. To his surprise, she was completely naked like a cocoon, which shocked Hanju, causing him to widen his eyes. After calming down, he immediately rushed over, calling out MISU, and hurriedly took off his outer robe to cover her body. She landed just as Hanju arrived, quickly draping the robe to cover MISU's body. She collapsed into his arms, breathing evenly, as if in deep sleep, completely unaware of what had happened. Hanju placed his hand on MISU's head to sense her, surprised to find that there was no other soul inside her, meaning MISU had not been possessed. He observed her chaotic primordial spirit and said in a low voice, "Her soul is undergoing transformation, and it's no longer forming." What background does the Ma family have? Ma Fuqiang also fell into the demonic path before. Suddenly, MISU lifted her head and reached out to touch Hanju's face. She leaned in close, but her gaze was somewhat strange. He immediately noticed that something was wrong with MISU's eyes and quickly stopped her. Hanju panicked and shouted at the unsuspecting MISU, "You've already broken through to the Yuaning stage, why haven't you transcended your tribulation?" Hey. Miss Ma, control yourself." She didn't respond, continuing to move closer. Hanju saw that MISU showed no reaction, and doubt began to form in his heart. Is she still the same MISU? Her eyes were completely hollow, like a doll created for someone's amusement. A second later, without hesitation, he slapped her, sending MISU flying. MISU was hit and rolled several times, crashing into a pillar. After a while, she managed to crawl out of the rubble, groaning in pain. MISU had now regained consciousness, covering her face and confusedly asking, "Who hit me?" She was surprised to see Hanju sitting there. After a moment, MISU suddenly realized something and looked down at her naked body. She immediately began to wail, cursing, "Hanju, what have you done? Damn pervert." At that moment, MISU's scream echoed in the secret chamber, "I want you to take responsibility. From now on, I rely on you." He showed a complicated expression, his voice trembling. "If I tell you I was hatched from that black egg, would you believe it? What exactly is going on with the Ma family? Why did you also fall into the demonic path?" Upon hearing this question, she didn't know how to answer either. Since entering the golden core stage, I often hear a voice while cultivating. MISU pouted and said, her eyes glistening with tears. At first, she thought it was a heart demon, but later she realized it wasn't. "I studied the classics left by my brother for the family and discovered that was the will passed down by the Ma family's ancestors." Actually, the Ma family wasn't a sect of demonic cultivators, but a true demon clan. Later, after our family was wiped out, the demonic cultivation methods passed to the human race and became known as demonic cultivation. We, the Ma family, can be considered descendants of both the demon clan and the human race. MISU lowered her head, her eyes filled with sadness. Hanju frowned in confusion. "Did you lose control like the demonic cultivators of the immortal realm?" She puffed her cheeks and said stubbornly, "I'm not a demonic cultivator. Their bodies can't handle the power of demonic cultivation, which causes backlash." MISU suddenly blushed, shyly turning her head to look elsewhere. "One of the cultivation techniques I passed on to you." She suddenly paused when saying this. Then, MISU looked at him, her eyes full of inquiry, and asked, "The technique requires us to cultivate together. Would you be willing to cultivate with me?" At that moment, the system suddenly popped up. Hanju saw the notification. Ma Yuling developed 3 stars of hatred toward him, and he was struck as if by lightning, not understanding what had happened. The system provided basic information on Ma Yuling and why she had developed hatred toward Hanju. After reading it, he could only conclude, "Does she want to kill me again?" So, in his book, apart from the 3 names that had been resolved, there was now a new name, ranking at the top of the list. But at that moment, his attention was completely focused on the information that MISU liked him. Hanju recalled how she had blushed when inviting him to cultivate together. Then, Hanju ruthlessly rejected her. "You've just broken through, you'd better consolidate your cultivation first. Also, don't forget to give me back my clothes, it's the only set I have." In that moment of recollection, he froze. "I originally meant well, but why did she call me a big fool?" Women's minds are really hard to